networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by Advanced Septic Services. My name's Galen.
Good morning, I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. So thanks for being here. So Joe, for our new listeners and viewers, can you tell everyone how our podcast came to be?
Sure. So it first started out as a private Facebook group page, and the purpose was to bring businesses together to kind of communicate with one another, ask questions, share tips about business. And we thought, what a better way than to start a podcast to bring on different guest speakers to kind of answer those questions to businesses, talk about different topics in some form or fashion as it relates to being in business and being an entrepreneur.
Awesome. So today's topic is building relationships, and we're so glad to have Casey Jacox in the building, sitting between us for our podcast. So thanks for joining us.
I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. So quick intro, a formal introduction of Casey. So curious optimist, storyteller, sales leader, communicator, coach, speaker. Casey's the author of Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. Over his entire career, adversity has always made Casey stronger. Blessed to have a positive attitude. He always looks at life through the eyes of an optimist. We love that. He loves to meet new people and has an intense passion for building relationships, true relationships that are long-lasting. He loves to laugh, make those around him laugh. We'll see if that happens today, right? He loves to empower people to achieve more than they think they are capable of. Competition is something he thrives on and always pushes himself and others to compete. Giving back is a huge part of Casey's life. You have to pay it forward so that you are open to receiving in the future. A Go-Giver reference. We actually had Bob Berg, who wrote the book, on our podcast a little over a year ago. Casey loves changing perception and thoroughly enjoys opportunities to educate customers, showing how they can achieve their business goals. He's the author of the book, Win the Relationship, Not the Deal, which came out January 2020.
Yep.
And is the host of the QB Dadcast, a podcast for fathers. That's how I kind of discovered him. And also a motivational speaker and coach for Limitless Minds. So I had to read this because it made me laugh. But Casey loves to read, do old man CrossFit, play golf, and most importantly, spend time with his family. So Casey, welcome.
Welcome.
What's old man CrossFit?
It's a legit exercise. It essentially boils down to two things: don't get fat and don't get hurt.
Okay.
Those are the two things. So essentially, I do a version of like high intense fitness, CrossFit, but don't anything from the ground. It's like I don't lift anymore because I'm probably gonna throw my back out.
So if you're doing thrusters, you're not doing 135. You've gone down to like 90.
I used to do thrusters. Now I pretty much do wall ball.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Or air squats.
All right. Nice. And since we're local in studio now, he's also a local boy. So Kent Ridge High School grad.
We are KR.
Right. Played football.
Arnold
Fernata, a reference to a friend of mine. Central Washington University quarterback. He corrected me, but now he's the number 4 all-time passer. Number 1 is, of course, John Kitna, right? The famous John Kitna.
I was number 2, but Mike Riley actually might have passed Kitna. So
okay.
Mike Riley he's quarterback in the Canadian Football League. He's at, I want to say, a 10-year run. Transferred from Washington State, and he also played for Coach Paul Baldwin, who's Coach Baldwin's put out numerous quarterbacks
in the league.
And
right.
up in Canada too.
Awesome. So be able to pick the mind of this quarterback, see how it get audible around some of the questions we'll navigate through this podcast. Joe, our previous guest, Danny Paleva, local fame, right? What was one of your takeaways on our previous episode there?
Sure. So she started franchise fame to work with franchises, and so it was the same thing. What she tells her clients is the same thing we tell our clients to work. So claim your local map listing on Google My Business, make sure you're posting to it, invest into Google Ads for local businesses, and then just always have a consistent message with all of your marketing.
Right. And I would just say consistent message. So if you're going to do social media, do it all the time, not just when you feel like it. It'll pay off. All right, so let's get back to Casey, and we asked the same 3 questions for to our guests. Joe, why don't you lead us off with the first question, please?
Sure. So, what are some early lessons you learned as an early entrepreneur?
It's a one-man band, and I play every instrument. I've learned that anything you want, you got to go out and get for yourself. And I think working in a corporate world for 20 plus years, I had amazing people behind me, amazing teammates, but I still had to drive the business development I wanted to do, drive what my customers, who are they, why would they call me, but now I still have those same skills are helping me today, and I'm learning that I enjoy the flexibility. I tell you that I learned that, but mainly if there's anything that needs to get done, I'm the guy.
You're it. So you wear all the hats.
I do. My wife helps a little bit behind the scenes, but now she went back to work. It's funny. One of my customers hired her.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, they thought I was pretty good until they hired my wife, and now they forgot about me.
Right.
So,
awesome. Yeah. So next question is, what's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I've received a lot of good advice, but I say the one that always comes back to mind is you can be right or get what you want. And for me, that's always about ego.
Yep.
It's about focusing on why do I care? Why am I passionate about something? What is the outcome I'm searching for? If I'm focusing so much on trying to convince somebody to do something, it means I've probably not asked enough questions or showed enough curiosity.
Awesome. We'll get into that a little bit later.
And lastly, why is marketing important?
To me, marketing is important because it's your brand, and people aren't just gonna think, hey, I'm gonna call Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, but you got to put yourself out there. You got to be consistent. And I'm not as probably outwardly in social media as I maybe should, but for me, I'm following the right journey as it relates to marketing.
Right.
For me.
Right.
But I think you got to get the message out.
So I'm just curious. You said you're following your journey. How do you market yourself?
I market myself through other people's experiences with me. Okay. So right now, I think marketing for me is happening through power of referral. I call building champions, people who will sell on my behalf when I'm not there, which is an art I've learned. And I have a website that you guys have seen that hopefully we might be talking in the future to make it even better. Yeah, that's right. That's how I'd probably say it.
Awesome. So before we move on, Joe, can you talk a little bit about our Valor Cares initiative that we're so proud of?
Yeah, so during COVID, we wanted a way to give back to businesses both locally, starting here in Washington as well as nationwide. So we came up with Valor Cares, which is our way of giving back to businesses. Every business's foundation for marketing has to start with a website. So we thought, let's start giving away some free website builds. So every single month, people can go to our website and they can apply for their business. So really any business except for like a shopping cart website or an e-commerce website or a multi-level marketing, anyone else can go and apply. And every single month, we just choose 1 or 2 winners every single month to help them out and build a free website. And
right now, we're looking for submissions that we want to give out in the first quarter of 2022. So feel free to refer someone. All right, so now we come to the part of our Advanced Septic Pump You Up quote of the day. So there's 2 quotes I included on this because you sent 2, and you mentioned this. You must choose. You can be right or get what you want. So talk to our audience, inspire us a little bit about why that's important to you.
Well, men, if you're listening, it's amazing marriage advice.
It's the first thing when that came up, like marriage
advice.
Yeah.
No, I learned this with my first job out of school. I worked for my old high school football coach, one of them named Matt Sorotsky, Coach Sorotsky, he's in pharmaceutical medical world now. And the gentleman that told me was a guy named Doug Arthur, and he said, you can be right or get what you want. And I was like, what the heck does that mean?
Right.
I was like, I want both.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't get both. You got to pick. And rarely do you get both. And so there's times where I find myself getting frustrated or like trying to convince or push something, which I think in selling, it is so important because so many deals will get stuck.
Right.
But me as a seller, which is what I coach my clients, I'm like, if a deal gets stuck, it's not their fault, it's your fault. And own it, because deals are won or lost in discovery.
Yep.
Meaning we've not asked the right questions or uncovered pain, because I think anytime you sell something, it's never going to be a good deal. If a client should be selling themselves because you brought them to a place they needed help.
Right.
So true.
Yeah, so I think I just love that advice. And sometimes when I want to hear it, I don't want to hear it, but it's so needed for me to hear it.
Awesome. Well, we need to hear it, so thanks for sharing. The next one, so listen to learn versus listen to persuade. So obviously in sales, that says a lot, but your thoughts on that quote, please.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm very in tune to the word curiosity right now, and it is a skill that a lot of people have said it's one of my better skills. Yeah, but I wasn't consciously focusing on it.
Right.
And so that phrase came to me mainly during 2020 when we went through so much with social unrest, the election, all these things, and people trying to just convince people what was versus we just maybe ask 2 more questions and try to understand someone's perspective. And so for me, if I have a thought about another book, and that's going to be, I think, the tagline. But I'm not committed to it yet. But it's
all right. You heard it here first. If it does happen,
it's almost there. But it's going to be a book about curiosity.
Awesome. When we'll get into that a little bit more. So this is one of the favorite parts of the podcast, our Advanced Septic Did You Know segment. So before we delve into the building relationships, the customer experience, I just wanted to share a few stats and get Casey and Joe's thoughts on it. So 70% of purchase experiences are based on how valued a customer feels. So in the hospitality industry, this could be affected by a number of factors. For instance, being left on hold too long, a bad review, dissatisfied customer, equally confusing or excessively long booking processes can leave customers feeling frustrated. So that's the hospitality industry. In our world of sales, what's your thought on how a customer feels, how important that is?
I think it's everything. That's the first chapter of my book, which is about power of the golden rule. And when we learn it in kindergarten, we learn to treat people well. But then when you get into your adult life, you can have road rage. You can be mean to different departments. Which I'm like, why?
Right.
Why is that okay? And I always work with my clients on create Maya Angelou moments. So paraphrasing, but it's not what I said, why I said it, but how I made you feel when we leave the room.
Right.
So if we can do those, whether it's at work, at home, with your friends, you're going to create more positive experiences, and people are going to want to be around you.
Awesome.
Does that also have to do with building that trust with people?
Yeah, I think trust is when commonality and rapport happen first, and I use curiosity to use both those things.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Awesome. We've read the stat before on this podcast, but I think it's important as it relates to today. So it's 5 to 25 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to retain a return customer. So we do all these efforts to try to drive leads and some stickiness to sticking with a customer. When you coach your clients or in your own experiences, what are some key elements to retention as opposed to when you lose customers?
A similar word to this podcast: stay curious,
okay,
right? And ask more questions. And I think a lot of times customers will leave because people get complacent. Joe's been with me forever. He'll always call me, or they love me. Well, how do you know?
Right.
When I always tell people, if someone's been with you longer than 6 months, take them back to day one when they first worked with you. And if I was role playing, I'd be, hey, Joe, man, it's been 6 months since we worked together. Talk to me again about why we're still here.
Right.
Tell me if someone came up to you and said, man, you got to hire Casey. Tell me what you'd say. If they said, you should not hire Casey, tell me what you'd say.
Right.
I want to put customers in positions where they're going to have to almost like role play a little bit and prep them, because those conversations are eventually going to happen. So I'd rather help prepare them for those and guide them to a way that I can either get ahead of negative emotions that might be happening, like net promoter score, if you're familiar with that. Like a detractor. Like if there's someone that's on the fence, one of my mentors said, Casey, it's okay not to know every answer. It's just not okay not to do anything about it.
Right.
So I'd rather, if there's potential something that's not happening, let's talk about it.
Be proactive than reactive, right?
Versus, I hope they call me back.
Right.
But yeah, get ahead of it.
Awesome. This is a common theme, but 7 in 10 people say they are willing to spend more with companies they believe provide exceptional customer service. So now we're going into the customer experience part again. That practice you just shared with us is a true practice of that, right? Like
100%.
You're revisiting your clients and not just setting and forgetting it, right?
It's that, and then I think it's the power of saying no. To me, it's which cracks me up in the business world when you say no, meaning that you're being honest. You get rewarded.
Yeah.
Which to me is obviously common sense, but when you say no and you say, man, I don't think I'm the right fit, Joe, you should give Galen a call. Like that alone is rewarded, and it's so uncommon. Which, if there's anybody listening, that's what I teach my clients a lot: is be uncommon. How are you going to be uncommon today? What words are you going to say? What questions are you going to ask? And so, I think that way of servicing people by just constantly being transparent, being honest, setting expectations, treating them the way you want to be treated,
right?
Which is basic stuff. Yet we don't do it every single day, and that's why I'm.
And Joe, we've done that too, right? With our clients. So we're one of the uncommon ones where in the marketing agency world, it's everyone eat everyone kind of world.
Yeah.
But we've talk to us about that.
I mean, it's just like you said. It's like you read our website. We're disruptive in the marketplace. We're 100% transparent with people. If we can't help someone, we're going to tell them we can't help them. Like, this is the reason why we can't help you. If you can fix maybe this portion, then we can work with you. If you're not willing to fix this portion of whatever that may be, then it's all right. We're not going to help you. Whereas in our industry, most companies go and they're just out there to make the next sale.
Yep.
So they don't care that maybe their website sucks and they're going to use it to promote that website for their business anyways. Versus us and other companies that are honest, they'll be like, nope, I'm sorry, your baby's ugly. Go fix your baby, and then
Get her a haircut.
get a haircut, yeah, and then we'll be able to help with work with you. So
awesome. In the world of online reviews, so we'll kind of take it into our space a little bit. It takes 12 positive experiences to make up for one unresolved negative experience. So, do you have clients that do they have like strategies for like online reviews or like reputation management and everything? Is that a key element with some of your coaching strategies for that customer experience?
It hasn't happened yet, which is hence why you guys might come into play. Because I don't know if there's a softball or why I should hire Valor.
All right. Doing my best, right?
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I have been a little bit more outwardly asking people, just saying, hey, I'd love for you to just, if you can, leave me a review. Like I have a goal to get to 100 reviews in Amazon for my book. We're at like 90, I think, right now. So super close. And a lot of it just is the courage to ask.
Right.
So I tell my clients, which this was taught me, is like, do you believe what you do matters? And they'll say, yeah. And I said, no, do you truly believe what you do matters? Yeah, I do. Then you have confidence to ask anybody anything you want. And so for me, I know I believe that I do matters. I know what I'm teaching and speaking about. It's through a lot of years of failure, few years of success. And so if I don't believe what I do matter, what I do matters, then why would I be fearful to ask someone to leave an honest review on Amazon or wherever they might leave it? So
right. And Joe, so like reviews, like I'm gonna tee you up for this one too.
Do it.
But why are they so important? And then you businesses ask like, oh, can you review me? But sometimes that isn't enough, right? It's
right.
You have to serve it up a little.
I mean, the whole purpose of the reviews is to let your potential new customers know what the experience has been like. So if it's a positive review, when it comes to reviews, you should always reply to all of the reviews. So whether it's on Google, I don't know if you can do it on Amazon, but you should always go and thank them for writing a review, whether it's a good review or even a negative review, because they still made the choice to hire you or buy your product. So the first thing you always want to do is go and thank them. And then if it's a negative review, then it's, what could we have done differently to maybe turn your 2-star into a 3 or 4-star review?
Because oftentimes people will read the first negative review and
stop.
judge the business on how they reply to that review.
And then with that, correct, it's just, here's someone that you could reach out to within the company to maybe help get your issue resolved. So it's just taking that next step further that most businesses don't do.
Be heard.
Correct. They just want to be heard. And in some instances, those negative reviews are not true negative reviews. So a lot of times you'll have maybe an employee who left the company who trashes a company, and it's just one review, one reply to it is, this person no longer works for our company, leave it at that. And then people who are reading those negative reviews, they say, oh, he's unhappy. That's not a true negative review.
So last one, and we'll bring it back to the building customer relationships. 86% of consumers stop doing business with a company because of poor client relations. So just like stop doing business. So that's a pretty high number, and we want to kind of visit that with your book and going into that. So, cool. All right. So win the relationship, not the deal. So what made you write the book? If it just came out in 2020, you're experienced and everything. What inspired you?
I wanted to prove that football guys could put sentences together.
All right.
Whoa.
Yeah, there you go.
Getting aggressive on here.
No. Got encroachment here, or a false start. Right, sorry.
No, I had the idea about 9 or 10 years ago, and I was traveling to Dallas, and I was working with a younger team that I was training from, growing a book of business that we had already built in the Seattle area. Mm-hmm. And I remember they were so focused on winning, and they were so competitive, which I loved. And I said, it's important to win every deal, but we're not. But how do you win a person when you lose a deal? Right. And they looked at me like I was
crazy.
Like, what do you mean? And then it finally made sense where I was in the staffing and consulting world. And so like when we lost a staffing engagement or a consulting engagement, let's say I lost it to Joe, and I said, hey, Galen, I know that you picked Joe's company. I'm bummed, but I want to make sure you had a good experience. And if there's anything in the future I can do, I hope I have a chance to compete.
Right.
Just that alone, if I followed up before he did, showed I cared.
Right.
And so I knew that there was something passionate about that. And when I parted ways with my former employer, which left on great terms, thank the world of K-Force, and it was time to just take some time, get my mind right. And then I literally locked myself in 2 hours a day for 4 months and wrote it. And I was so glad I did it, and very challenging.
Right.
But now it's a big business card. And most authors, just in case you're wondering, you don't make a lot of money on books.
No? You're not a millionaire?
No, just short. But I love everything, the vision, how it came together, the process, and one of the best editors I paid zero. Any idea who that might be?
Your wife.
Bingo. Yeah.
Well, she is paid, right? So
that's right. I
she's
guess
just
maybe,
not on the official payroll.
Maybe that's why I've not made any money in the book.
Okay, there you go.
Go to her account.
Right, there you go. So awesome.
Well, hold on. What I like about that is you just brought up I'm guilty of it. I don't do it. So if I don't win over a client, I fail to reach out to them to ask them why I don't. What value did I not bring? Did I not answer your questions? Are there other questions that I forgot to answer? And I feel that most people, when they fail at something, especially like winning over a deal, they don't ask. So I think that would definitely help out people who are watching right now.
Yeah, so I use a framework that I got taught called give two, take two.
Okay.
And I use, instead of saying, I'm so key on words, instead of saying you use give or what, or I use tell me. So tell me, explain, describe. Describe two things you enjoyed about our experience, and two things that maybe I could have done differently to improve the experience for you. Something psychologically, when people hear the word tell me, explain, describe, they talk more, I found. And then when you hear a specific number, it's kind of like if I said, hey Galen, how was your day?
It's going to be ambiguous, like, okay, I could...
Galen, tell me one time you laughed on this day. Like it just takes you to a spot like a memory.
Right.
And so,
I saw you duff a chip. Okay, that would never happen, but
you were talking my backswing.
There you go. Awesome. So there's two elements that really stuck with me that I wanted to talk about. So I think this is important for a lot of people and for me too. The power of setting expectations help build credibility, which leads to trust in all of your relationships. So the power of setting expectations. So obviously, everyone wants to win or get the deal, right? But setting the correct expectations, sometimes people don't understand how to do that. So in your book, and now, talk to us about that a little bit.
Again, this is simple stuff that people fumble nonstop, right? It's the 1-footer for birdie. You just tap, and all of a sudden you lip out, right? But setting expectations, as simple as, let's say we're going to meet today at 10.
Right.
If I'm going to be 3 minutes late, don't wait to 10:01 to come in and apologize for being late. If I know I'm going to be late at 9:51, hey Galen, hey Joe, I'm running 3 minutes late, my apologies.
Right.
Just that alone shows I respect your time.
Right.
Setting expectation leads right into power of documentation, which I wrote about, and I'm a big documentation guy because those CRMs make you look way smarter than you are. And if Joe said, hey Casey, now's not a good time, call me in 2 weeks. Great. And I followed up and said, Joe, hey, it's Casey with Winning the Relationship. You told me to call you in 2 weeks. Is now a good time? That word track, again, super simple, but people don't do. They call to, hey, Joe, it's Casey. I'm just calling to check in, which means I'm calling to waste your time because I don't know what else to talk about. So I'm just going to call and check in like 99% of every other salesperson out there. But if I use what I learned and then use that data as how I follow up in setting expectations about either what I'm going to do or product ship's going to be late, or get ahead of questions that you know your customer is going to ask, and tell them before they have to ask you.
Right.
So you're looking for ways to say, how can I be more valued? Do it. Show value. Don't.
So instead of overcoming objections at that point, you introduce them ahead.
100%.
Right? Stay ahead of it. Yeah.
The customers are thinking about this stuff, so we can either be naive and pretend that, like, get ahead of things that you know your competitors are probably scared to talk about. But when we can be uncommon and talk about those things, it shows you're confident. You believe what you do matters.
Right.
And you're not, and you know that, hey, this might not be the perfect deal for everybody, but getting ahead of it and communicating it about whether it's positive or negative, I found just is a better way to live life.
Awesome.
Something you said stuck out too is when you call them, ask is now a good time. Because most people, salespeople, it's on your time. And when you put that back on them, then they understand that you actually respect their time.
Great. I love that you brought that up because I used to fight this one internally sometimes. People would tell me, don't ask for it, just go. I'm like, but it's not about me.
Right. It's about them all the time.
It's about them, right? And so I'd rather, if I'm going to talk about something or try to understand something, I'd rather do it when they're in a spot to listen versus just hear me and like tell me what anything they want to do to get me off the phone.
Right.
Right. So to me, it's about just showing respect and being easy to work with.
Right. I found that to be, people will respect you even if after the deal is done. And if you don't get them, they'll actually return your calls or return your emails because of that level of respect that you're showing them and everything.
Absolutely.
So, spend the rest of our time talking about this one, but you mentioned it early. Ditch the ego. Learn why being vulnerable will improve your authenticity. So, in the sales world, or business owners have like egos, right? We always want to be the alpha dog and everything, but ditch the ego. So what was your aha moment, when you realized this?
I've always been, I think back to like high school football, broke my foot 4 spots, didn't play my senior year in high school. I had a chance, I was kind of on UW's radar, a little bit of Big Sky, and broke my foot. The guy that replaced me went on to set our single season passing yardage record, took us to state playoffs, first time in 20 years, and named second team all league. I was a captain. I had to watch. So I was just like, it taught me quickly that we're all replaceable, no matter how good we are. I'm pretty sure our phone numbers aren't 911.
Right.
So we're not that important.
Right.
And so for me, that lesson going into college, and then, if I had a great game, let's say I was 27-35, 300-something yards, we won those 7 or 8 completions, I'm still going to get coached on why and what. And so that lesson led me. And then in business, you're only as really good as the last 1,440 minutes we all get each day. And so for me, as a sales leader, when I could lead with humility or lead with vulnerability and talk about my own fears, it created better environments. That also mindset helped in creating external relationships. And I just found that when we can figure out ways to show our own gaps or what we're not as where we struggled too, you quickly get people to want to share their gaps. So I always tell my clients, go first, don't wait, right? And I think lastly, I'd just say that leads into the art of practice, which most sellers or companies don't do. When we're in kids, if you have kids in basketball or sports, whatever they be, we expect them to go shoot extra free throws,
right,
go to the driving range, hit extra balls.
Right.
But yet when we are adults and we get into our normal job, we just show up and wing it. And we wonder why we're not elite. And so if our customers knew we were practicing on them every day, how would you imagine they would feel? Right? Hey, give Valor a call. They're great. They practice on you every day.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what? So for me, I think it's just a good reminder that no matter what we're doing, if it's prepping for today's podcast, if it's prepping for a presentation I'm going to do the effort and practice and attack your gaps, because you'll feel better about yourself, you're growing, and the person on the other side is going to appreciate it more too.
Awesome. So we didn't talk about this so much, but your coaching business and everything. Tell us a little about your company, the kind of businesses that you like to work with and everything, and what you offer them.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got that question a lot as of late. Coaching found me. I did not leave and say, I can't wait to be a coach. I had
No?
I had companies start to ask me, like, hey, do you coach? I'm like, yeah, my kids.
Yeah.
And then I was stuck on, before I fully did it, like, I didn't go to coaching school. I'm not certified with a plaque on the wall that says whatever. And no, I don't mean that negatively or positively. Just for me, it didn't make sense.
Right.
And I finally reached out to a gentleman by the name of, shout out to Andrew Moss in Toronto, and I said, hey, I'm kind of stuck on this fact I'm not certified. He goes, Casey, can I be honest with you? I said, yeah. He's like, I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I said, I've thrown 4 picks in the first half. I've been coaching for my buddies. I've been in executive boardrooms. Give it to me.
Right.
He goes, quote, I want you to get out of my mother effing face and go help people. He goes, here's your certification. You wrote a book. You're the number 1 guy at this company, blah, 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 all these things. I'm like, get out of my face. And I'm like, okay. And from there on, I've just been serving and being curious. I always call it be the boomerang mentality. We're just keep throwing out acts of service and hope they're going to come back. And if they don't, they don't. But if you're doing your best to create those types of environments. So I'm now working with 5 companies. Ideal, I'd say, any company that's looking to drive more curiosity, humility, vulnerability, improve their message around understanding it doesn't really matter what you sell, but it's a matter of understanding what problem you solve.
Right.
How do you solve it differently or better? And then where's your proof? How can you articulate it in third-person storytelling? Because it doesn't matter what I say. If I can say what my customers have said they've chosen me is because of X.
Right. So then Talk to us a little bit about your experience or how you came aboard with Limitless Minds.
Yeah.
We've had Travis Thomas on our podcast.
Yes,
You know, great
and-
guest. Improvisation and everything. Talked about authenticity a lot. Tell us how that came to be.
Yeah, so shout out to David Gorsuch. I met David through this a networking group called Shift Up through Evan Green, and so it was a great group of people, and he and I started chatting. One thing led to another. He goes, man, I'm doing some work with Limitless Minds, and I said, I think I know them. And then I met a friend named Colin Henderson, and the next thing you know, we got introduced to Harry, which is Russell's brother, and spent time with him, DJ Edson, and was just learning. And then I became what's called a room tilter, which is ironic, that phrase room tilter, because that's how they name us coaches within the.
Because there's a Room Tilters podcast too, or there was, right?
Still is.
Yeah, still is.
Yeah,
Okay.
they haven't done any episodes as of late, but so we're considered room tilter, part of the coaching group. And quick side story: when I was one of my last few times at K-Force and I was traveling, one of my former bosses said I walked into the hotel lobby late because I was at dinner with a client, and like 10 people came up to me and wanted to hear what I said, which it was kind of awkward for him to describe it that way. And he goes, "What's BS is that I'm their leader and they don't do it to me. They do it to you because you influence them."
Right.
It was a super humbling moment to hear, but it brought me back to this Limitless Minds group. And so really what we do is teach the power of staying neutral. And we're going through a process right now. We're improving the app, but companies who are looking to really take their mindset game to another level. I mean, I'm super blessed to work with some amazingly talented people in this group, from Travis Thomas, Colin Henderson, my friend Hannah Pryor, I worked with at K-Force, guy Matt Miller, who's part of the Stephen Covey group. There's just, I mean, it goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
So room tilter. Explain that a little more.
You walk into a room and people want to be around them.
Okay.
So, which I think, again, that spoke to me as a quarterback.
Right.
If I walk into huddle,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to say, "Shut up, let's go."
No,
be,
you should command it already.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's they know it. They know that I'm not there to mess around, but I'm there to have fun.
Right.
And they tilt the room like, oh, they make you a little bit uncomfortable, right? And so
Right.
for me, that's someone who I'm always striving to be around. Someone of my old man CrossFit. I want to find old man people who do CrossFit better than me.
Right.
So then how did the podcast start?
My podcast.
Yeah,
Yes.
QB Dadcast.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do something. I had a podcast internally at K-Force before I left, and I just loved it. I loved it's a great way to use curiosity, practice my biz dev skills, get to know people, and I knew there wasn't a lot of stuff for dads out there. And so the thought was, if I can get, traditionally men, sorry boys, we get said we don't communicate well enough, but
Right.
I'm probably the opposite. You give me a good episode of Punky Brewster, I'm going to tear up.
Right.
But to me, I wanted to interview dads. I wanted to understand how they grew up, how their parents impacted them, lessons they learned, what lessons did they learn from their parents that they're now applying to their children.
Yeah.
And then I want to learn about a gap in their dad game, about what's an area that you wish you were better as a dad, because whether you're Michael Gervais, Swen Nader, Lorenzo Omar, Rick Riz, all people I've interviewed, great, you have all these cool jobs, but in the end, the biggest job description you have is
Being a dad.
Yeah.
Being
Right.
a dad. So
You never get fired from that. So.
no, sometimes they try to, but
Yeah.
but it's a hard job,
Right.
It's about
You could get written up, but it's still your job. Right?
yeah, but it's about, to me, it helps me stay grounded. Selfishly, I feel like I'm in therapy every week when I interview these dads, because
Right.
it helps me stay grounded on.
A part of it is therapy, I would
Totally.
assume.
Because you're learning what they're doing right that you may be doing wrong. And it's something that you could automatically change how you parent and vice versa.
Because that's the curious optimist that you are. And then, just asking those questions, like you're letting those people, your guests, be storytellers that you learn from. Then that third party, they're saying in first degree, but you're processing it like third person. Right?
Yep.
So.
And I'm sharing my own gaps too.
Right.
Patience is my gap as a competitive person. Even though I wrote about expectation management, I've said this to dads, like in my mind, sometimes when I get off my game a little bit, it's because I've not done a good job articulating what's in my mind of how an outcome might go.
Right.
In my mind, it's super clear, but I forgot that my wife isn't a palm reader. She's not like reading my palm or my mind.
Right.
So it makes me self-aware about just being present about, again, be right or get what I want.
Right. Well, awesome. You're a great guest. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
This
thank
was
you.
actually our first session in studio. So Casey, perfect guest to to join us for that. Real quick before we sign off, Joe, one more plug for our Valor Cares initiative, please.
Sure. If you own a business and you need a website, or maybe your website's 10 years old, or your best friend's cousins, brothers, whatever, built it in their basement and you just don't have access to it, we would love for you to submit your information. You can go to askvalormasterminds.com, look on the Valor Cares page, submit your information, and like Galen mentioned earlier on in our show, that we're looking to award 1 or 2 websites to start the year.
Awesome. So on behalf of our sponsor, Advanced Septic Service, my name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
Coming at you from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. Casey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. Thanks, guys.